Tech Sounds presents EduTrends.
Welcome to EduTrends, presented by the Institute for the Future of Education. This is a Tech Sound podcast, the official podcast of Tec de Monterrey. I am Jose Pepe Escamilla, Associate Director of the Institute for the Future of Education. Today's guests are Davies, Professor of Clinical Bioinformatics and Healthcare Science Education and Academic Lead for Lifelong Learning, and Simon Thomson, Professor of Hybrid Learning and Director of Flexible Learning at the University of Manchester. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. I always start with a sort of personal question. So can you tell us, each of you, about your personal journey of how do you end up working in education, lifelong learning, and what excited you about this field?
Go for it, Simon.
So I did actually start, my undergraduate degree was in theatre. Angie's going to learn some things about me that she didn't know. So I started my undergraduate degree was in theatre, but I did a lot of technical theatre. And then after my undergraduate degree, I didn't stay on in higher education. It wasn't a natural place for me, I guess, higher education. It didn't feel like a natural place for me. I was the first in my family to go to university. I'm still only the only member of my direct family that's ever been, actually. So it wasn't something that we did in our family, went to university, but I did theatre, and then I ended up getting into media and film, became an editor and did editing. And then I started teaching at a further education college. And that's where my kind of love of teaching came from, I guess. And then eventually found my way into higher education, and my relationship with technology and education are really symbiotic. They've always been kind of really closely connected. So even before podcasts became popular in about early 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, I was doing lectures as podcasts. You know, when the technology was really old and nobody really knew how to do podcasts. But I've always had that strong relationship. So though since then, I've always been working in universities and teaching using technology and also helping others in that. So that's a quick kind of how I got in, and the kind of roles that I've picked up are very technologically driven in terms of my work in higher education.
Thank you, Simon, for your answer. And?
Yeah, so similar to Simon, I was also the first in my family to go to university. So that was quite an exciting journey for all concerned, really, where I went off to study biochemistry, and then latterly after that I did a PhD within molecular biology. But I became an academic and interested in education somewhat accidentally. So for many years I worked in the pharma sector, looking at research and development of drugs. And I'd reached a point where I was fed up with being in the lab, and I was looking for something different, I guess. And I became involved in quite an interesting role in training, where I was involved in training people within healthcare, and in particular to adopt new technologies that were coming through. So this was around genomics, it was around bioinformatics, and things that were moving really, really rapidly into the healthcare sector. So I started to get involved in curriculum design at that point. And then my role really transitioned from that training related role into an academic role in the university. And then very quickly I became a program director, and I guess the rest is history, really.
Yes, thank you for your answer. I'm also first generation to go to the university, and my background is in computer science, in artificial intelligence, by the way, my PhD. But I ended working in artificial intelligence applied to education. As how I ended in education. Also, I found, as you say, I think Simon said that I found my love for education coming from very different backgrounds than you. So that's part of the fascinating thing in education, this interdisciplinarity, that we have in the area. So you both work in the University of Manchester, and this university has this flexible learning strategy for 2035, focus on expanding choice, lifelong learning, and improving student experience. I think that all universities would like to have these features in their systems, know how to expand choices, how to make a university a lifelong learning engine also, and how to be more student-centered. So I'm curious how this is being implemented.
Go on, Simon.
So I suppose there's two distinct things. One is the flexible learning program, and then what we call Manchester 2035, which is a university-wide strategy of which flexible learning is a part of it. So if we talk about the flexible learning program, that has been a program that's been running for the last 3 years in the organization, and that is really about laying the foundations and culturally moving the organization to a point at which it's more accepting of that kind of flexible model. Because you'll experience this yourself, no doubt, that universities are very good at staying the same. They don't really like a lot of change. And so in order to make change happen, you have to bring people along with you and demonstrate value. So what we've tried to do over the last 3 years in the flexible learning program is really talk about flexibility around place, pace, and pathway. So giving learners more flexibility around the place through which they study, the pace at which they study, and the pathways through which they navigate that experience. What that has done is lay the foundations for a bigger strategy, which is called Manchester 2035, which is our new institutional strategy, of which that flexible component is what we call a leap, a really core part of that, which is about how do we now, as a university, leap really deeply into that philosophy. So what the flexible learning program has done is had loads of work streams that's tested out lots of ideas and started to push boundaries. And now the university is saying, right, this is going to be a strategic activity of our organization. So the purpose of the flexible learning program was to lay those foundations, begin to explore what it meant for an organization to do that at scale, and then set in motion the opportunities for a bigger strategy, which is now coming to the fore.
Shall I pick up on some further bits and pieces related to, I guess, my area of work? So as Simon said, the 3 areas have been kind of place, pace, and pathway. And the particular area that I've been looking at has been pathway. So we've been thinking about flexible pathways and lifelong learning. And so my area of activity in the project has been around the lifelong learning kind of work stream. And we know now, so a lot of our understanding over the last few years is that learners want to access universities in a much more flexible way. And we want Manchester to become a place where learners that may never have engaged with a university or in higher education feel comfortable to come to. We're really proud as a university to be one of the first civic universities in the UK, which means in particular we take our role in supporting the city and our city region really seriously. And if you look at some of the strategy around Manchester as a region, we've got really ambitious aspirations to become a globally leading digital innovation city and attract lots of large corporates as a region. And this is reflected if you look at the city's blueprint, the city's digital blueprint. But in order to do that, we need to have a firm foundation around lifelong learning, around flexible learning, and we need to keep digital talent in the region, and we need to build capacity within the workforce. And that's just one area that needs kind of, I guess, for us, upskilling and reskilling. But we know they're really in-demand skills. And one of the really exciting things for us that illustrates we're really committed to that kind of lifelong learning agenda is we've recently, in the last 12 months, become a strategic partner on the city's UNESCO City of Learning initiative. And that means that as a city, we're all really committed, and with ourselves, the City Council and the Manchester Metropolitan University, we're all committed to making sure we can make a lifelong learning city within our region. We're also really proud to have a dual status. So we're not only UNESCO City of Learning, we're also a UNESCO City of Literature. And we recently held a celebration event a few weeks ago to celebrate that. And importantly, it was part of our Festival of Libraries in the city. And I think that's quite nice because it links together the learning agenda with the City of Literature through that library connection, which was great.
And what Anne, John, and I often talk about is how can we become a learning partner for life? So wherever you are in your life, how can we become that learning partner? So, and one of the things that we're really keen on is making sure that we're really grounded in the city. So the city is really important. How can we help not just our city that we're in, but also how can we help our learners globally? So it's looking at that through those multiple lenses, but very much how can we become your learning partner for life is kind of how we're trying to position this.
I love that vision of becoming the learner for life for your, I would say, extended community, no, not only the city, but an extended community of learners of the university. But I wonder how are you achieving this? And I will be a little bit tough on universities in general. So that for degree education is like the first class citizen in universities, and non-degree education is generally treated as a second class citizen. It could be something that we do extra or cash cow for the university to produce income for things that can be not paid otherwise, etc. So how has the university moved into that direction, and how is faculty and leadership adopting this in order to maybe we're not there yet, no? But what's the plan also to get there by 2035?
This is definitely Angie's question because the flexible learning program, Angie's been leading on the work stream around lifelong learning, tackling this issue. So, Angie, this is definitely for you, this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question, and I don't disagree. It's an area that we've been working on now for the last 2 to 3 years. But what's key, I think things are changing. So if you look at things like our national strategy, we've got in the UK, we've got a skills strategy, we've got our industrial strategy, and what's really key is the need to upskill to reskill. And if we want to be a place that links research, that links not only teaching, but research and innovation all together, we need to also make sure we can look at that skills landscape as well. And I think through that innovation hook, that connects us into thinking about the university as a place that's not just our standard, traditional learners, students in our undergraduate, maybe postgraduate kind of learning environments, but this is much more broader learners, people that will maybe change careers 4 or 5 times throughout their lifetime. And that's the world I think that we now have. And I think the university is seeing, certainly Manchester is beginning to see, we need to become part of that to become a holistic offer to our learners and to support businesses, to support our strategic partners. And importantly, one thing that I think we've certainly not been at Manchester previously is a place where our alumni will continue to want to come back to and have that literally lifelong journey with us as an institution as well.
Thank you for your answer. So in this area of working with alumni, so we have people that have their own life, a family, they're working, and they need more accessible and flexible learning opportunities. How is the University of Manchester dealing with that, Simon?
Yeah, so obviously the flexible learning program was absolutely about trying to recognize that we needed more flexibility around pace, place, and pathway. And that talks exactly to the types of learners that perhaps we haven't catered for previously. So that's a big change for an organization as large as Manchester that has predominantly relied on an on-campus model. So, we're very good at attracting students, both at home and from overseas, but coming onto our campuses for long periods of study, so an undergraduate or a postgraduate. And throughout the program, we have recognized through conversations with our alumni, through conversations with regional stakeholders, local businesses, small to medium enterprises, that that's not flexible enough for them. So what we've started to do is lay the foundations for that flexibility. So we're starting now to build a portfolio which is entirely online, a strategic approach to that portfolio that is market-led and focusing on increasing that flexibility. So we're just about to launch some or develop a series of programs, postgraduate taught programs, fully online, part-time, wholly asynchronous, and also a suite of short courses and micro-credentials, because we know these learners are out there, and what we now to do is develop a portfolio to connect those two pieces of work together. So that is the foundations that I was talking about earlier that we laid during the flexible learning program are really now coming to the fore, where we're starting to build a portfolio, an education portfolio that meets the needs of those diverse learners that we probably haven't done before. So this is very new for the organization, but something that we're really excited about and we have ambitious plans for.
Thank you. And you also mentioned that as part of the Mission 2035, the strategic plan of 2035, if I remember correctly, there was some work to make the city like a learning city, like a community of learning. How are you contributing to that role? Because I imagine this is something that is at the government level also of the city.
Yeah. Shall I pick that one up?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I said, we are a strategic partner in the UNESCO Learning City, and that means actually we're working really, really closely with both what we call our combined authority, which is sort of the regional government, and also our city council, which sort of governs the actual city, and working really closely with our adult skills department as well within the city council. So within that, we've got huge networks across the city and huge numbers of providers, but it's perhaps not been as connected as it could have been before with the higher education sector. So I think this is our time to bring that more broader adult education agenda together with the higher education agenda and see where we can work together to address some of those skills needs. So we're also within the UK, we have something called local skills improvement plans that we can draw upon, and they focus on key areas. Not surprisingly for Manchester, digital is a really big area, as is manufacturing, as is healthcare, as is teaching, and there are real big skills needs in each of those areas. So working in that sort of holistic partnership under the umbrella of the UNESCO City of Learning, what we can start to do now is really plug in through some of our activity, whether it's through the postgraduate courses that Simon's mentioned, but also more importantly, some of those professional learning shorter courses to help to focus on some of those skills needs that are particularly in demand in our region. And actually a lot of those skills will extrapolate out nationally as well.
Were you going to say something, Simon? No.
I was just going to say a couple of things. One is, I think what we've really recognized is that what the region needs is not the same as what the university used to offer. So the region needs a very particular set of skills to be developed over the next few years to meet its ambitions, to develop itself as a city of growth. And what the university is a civic university. So how do we respond to that? And how do we help the city become, and the region become, the thing that it's set out to be? So I think, as Andrew's alluded to, the relationship we have now developed with the regional partners is a really rich one. It's doing two things. One is we're going to be developing regional skills for local people, and that's really important. But also what we want to do is retain talent that's come into Manchester through our universities and retain that talent within the city. Because I think quite often what you find is learners come to the university, they have a brilliant time, and then they go back and they go somewhere else. But actually what we want to do is retain that talent in our city and keep nurturing it and building on it. And that's really where the innovation bit comes from as well. So those are the two bits that we've been working on, is upskilling our citizens within our region, but also retaining the talent that we bring in through our universities.
Yes. I think it's fascinating, this idea of a learning city. And I was wondering if we can, if you can help me to identify what are the characteristics of a learning city in general, not particular in Manchester, or how can we say if we see these things in a city, we can say this is a learning city. What will be the ideal characteristics?
I'll give it a go to start off with. I mean, I think we are still learning. So we are the new kids on the block. We only got awarded our status in February 2024. We were fortunate enough, so myself and a couple of colleagues from Manchester went across to see a lot of the cities have lifelong learning city festivals, which is fabulous. And it's something that we might aspire to do within Manchester at some point. And we went across to Cork. Cork is a fabulous learning city. It's won many awards for its work. And I think my observation of what I saw there was truly a complete partnership across a broad range of organizations. So if I look at what they've done there, they literally do bring in the university, they bring in grassroots community-based organizations that bring in their learning networks, and they bring that learning environment under that umbrella, basically through the wider learning city. They bring in the libraries. They're a huge part of what they do within their learning city kind of organization too. And of course, rooted at the center of it, that the city council is also helping to coordinate lots of that activity. So to me, it's not just one organization that gets the status and is running it. It's truly embedded across all of those community organizations, neighborhood learning organizations. And yeah, that's how we'll see the benefit, I think.
Yeah, the UNESCO, I just picked the UNESCO definition. It says UNESCO defines a learning city as a place that is effectively mobilizes all of its resources in every sector to promote inclusive learning opportunities throughout the lives of its residents. So it's absolutely talking about the people that live in that city have access to the skills development they need to benefit themselves and their lives. But it's not just the responsibility of a university, it's a collective responsibility of the businesses in that city, the local government in that city, and all of the partners. So it's a collective response. So Ange is underselling herself because she's really heavily involved in that process, but it was a partnership process of which the university was contributing. So it was very much a UNESCO learning city presented from the city of Manchester collectively as a group.
Yes, I have a very clear idea now after what you have said, and I also have the feeling, even if the UNESCO definition doesn't say it, that there's some maybe cultural change in the city that makes people be more willing to learn, because we have all these opportunities, but also we have to have people to be able to access to them, or willing to have access to them.
Yeah.
To have this growth mindset in general. And I congratulations for the project that you have. It's a great project, and I envy you. I would like to have that in my city too. So it's a big challenge, but also a very interesting project.
I think it's great. I think there's a long way we can go with it, and so when we visited Cork and we saw the opportunities and just how, I mean, we put them on a pedestal, and rightly so, because the work they're doing there is phenomenal. And actually that conduit through these lifelong learning festivals is an amazing celebration. And what we saw there was, loads of the whole community coming together in events all across the city over a week-long program. Now, I'm not suggesting that let's start small maybe, but I think what we're starting to do also, which is quite exciting, I think, is make the connection between, we're one of two, well, we're the only city in the UK to have the dual designation of City of Literature and UNESCO City of Learning. And actually what we want to do is think about, where are those synergies? Where do we bring together lifelong learning and also the literature side of things and that bigger creative sector? And how can we make the most of that from a learning perspective too?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right when you talk about UNESCO's, one of their things is about how do we foster a culture of learning within our city throughout somebody's life, because that has got to be part of that. And I think historically, there's a lot of people in the region that have probably been through school and then they've gone and got a job and they've never really then thought about learning beyond that point. And what we want to do is make sure that everybody in the city has access to learning when they need it in order to be able to reskill and redevelop. And so absolutely fostering that culture of learning throughout life is part of the work of this project.
Thank you very much, and once again, congratulations. So I have a final question for both of you. You can answer each taking turns. And it's a difficult question because I would like you to give us your vision of the future of education the following 5 years or 10 years. You can pick whatever time frame that you want and tell us what do you think education will be like.
I'll let Ange go first, and then I can piggyback off a brilliant answer.
I don't know about that. So I've got a bit of a thing that I tend to correct people on, and what I would like in the next 10 years is we'll be discussing learners and no longer just students. So to me, that would be a massive change in mindset and indicative of the culture. So, we'll have many people with us, learning with us, that may never have engaged with a university or even they may never become a registered student. That to me would be a fantastic outcome. And I think for me, in the work that certainly I'm doing more around the sort of lifelong professional learning, is to really cement Manchester as kind of a trusted learning partner for our industry, for our strategic partners, for the city region, and to be able to really truly design and co-design, actually in many cases, truly innovative and flexible lifelong learning programs. So I think, in that aspiration, making sure that Manchester can develop that sort of professional learning that meets not only regional, national needs, but also taking what we've learned through all this activity we talked about today and the flexible learning and thinking about global requirements. We're not unique. When we speak to people out in Asia, other places, some of the things that we need, they need too. So drawing on all of that experience of developing flexible learning in that infrastructure and all of that insight to make sure we can support even on a global basis, and in fact leveraging some of the work we do we've got many international centres across the world as well. So I think that's my aspiration.
That's a very good vision. Thank you. Simon, do you want to?
Yeah, so my vision is, it absolutely talks to Angie's point, is really to increase access to an education for people that want it when they need it. And I don't just mean a university level education in terms of a degree. I mean, as Ange talks to, we will hopefully be building our learner base. So we'll have learners that aren't necessarily registered on credit-bearing programs within our organization, but our university is still helping them to develop and reskill. And I think for me, the whole point about increasing access is that somebody should be able to access the learning they need when they need it. And that might even mean that in some ways we can offer some of that learning for free. And Ange and I have talked about how we kind of create a model where, we've got a real strong sense of social responsibility at Manchester, and there will be some people that can't afford access to education. How can we create a model that really increases access to make sure that anybody that needs learning at that point they need it can access it, even if they don't always have the financial means to do that.
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting. What you have said remind me of guiding principles that we have in the Institute for the Future of Education. We call it FAIR. It's an acronym. We say education has to be fair. F is fit for purpose. The A is for adequate. The I is for inclusive, and the R is for relevant and responsive, not to the needs of people. So I think this is a fair future that you're looking at in education. Thank you very much, Simon and Nang. Yes. And thank you for your conversation and for sharing. Congratulations for your project. And I enjoy this conversation, and I'm sure that our audience will enjoy it too.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
For more information, visit observatory.tech.mx/EduTrends podcast and ife.tech.mx. A special thanks to Tecnológico de Monterrey, the Institute for the Future of Education, and the Tech Sounds team. EduTrends producers Esteban Venegas and Cristian Higosa. Stay tuned and play Tech Sounds in your favorite podcast app for other great shows and content.